I am the face of hunger. Looking at me, would you think at one time in my life I faced a struggle with hunger? Many may have a similar story of their own or know someone who has experienced hunger. I hope today by telling you what inspired me to tell my story and what you learned from it, that you will find a way to make a difference for someone in our community in their struggle against hunger. It was the fall of 1975, and I was 11 years old. I was being raised in a town north of Los Angeles that if you asked the residents, many of them would refer to it as Mayberry. Everyone, it seemed, was at Friday night high school football games, church on Sunday, and at this time in our world, we had the innocence as children, without the worry of harm, in riding bikes to the local hamburger spot to grab an ice cream as we would journey to and from the town swimming pool on a hot summer day. Times were different then in many ways. I do not recall food banks in our town. I do not remember free lunches being provided for children of low income at school. But I began to know that my life was changing and food becoming more insecure in our home. My father had died August of 1970, leaving my mother with 6 children to raise from the ages of 13 to 4, 3 boys and 3 girls. Even though we had the same type of house as everyone else, the green shag carpet and all, we were the farthest thing from the Brady Bunch life portrayed on TV. We had income with my father's Social Security and pension. We always had our home, food on the table, the summer trips to Oregon to see the grandparents, and the occasional trips to Disneyland and the California beaches for vacation. There were no fears, so I thought. But that spring of 1975, I started to notice changes. There was no milk with dinner most of the time, after-school snacks were not every day, and my lunch was getting smaller as weeks progressed. Knowing something was happening, but I didn't feel I could ask why, I decided to tell my mother when I started the 6th grade, if I asked for the task of washing down the lower grade students' lunch tables, I would get a free lunch. Classmates would know I was in need if I was washing the tables for the free lunch. Having grown up with these kids since kindergarten, I did not face the normal taunting or asking of why. My memory is that of only kindness and understanding from them. On this day, I had eaten a breakfast of pancakes. There was no orange juice or milk. My mother had asked me to get my brother a lunch ticket at the school office, telling them she would pay them at the end of the week when she got paid, asking, "Are we out of food?" No answer, but a look of worry on her face. That evening, my mother called us 5 kids who were still at home to the table for dinner. The table was set as for any other weeknight dinner, but the only thing on the table was a pot of beans. My twin sisters were 17, one asking in a disappointed tone as she approached, "What is that?" As my mother nervously replied, "White beans, that is all we have for dinner." With worry in her voice, she asked us to sit, saying there was enough for 2 scoops for each of us. As a religious woman, a strong belief, she said a prayer for a blessing, an immediate blessing. The questions began why, then with strong reluctance to each of the older ones, they left the table. My younger brother and I remained, telling her we weren't hungry, as if we were ashamed to have for dinner the only food we had. Then in so many words again, the questions of how and why there was no longer food in our home. What will we eat for breakfast? Tears were in my mother's eyes as she was grieving again, but this time she had no answer. It was about a half hour later. There was a knock at the door. It was a woman from church. She had said when she stopped by yesterday, and upon review of what my brother was cooking to create dinner, she had concern for the lack of food in our home. She stated knowing our survivor benefits gave us too much of an income for food stamp assistance, but not enough to live on. She had told her husband they needed to help. She called his kids to head to her station wagon. We all remember what those are, right? Okay. And in the back of her car were bags and bags of groceries, and on the second row seat too. My younger brother and I became elated as we spotted a box of Hostess ding dongs, a forbidden item on grocery lists by moms during this time, including my own. She said, "My husband said to spend $75, but I spent $100. There were so many groceries, the brown paper bags covered our kitchen floor and table. Even though in the years to come, my family experienced more struggles financially with the absence of my father. The older kids say they don't remember or don't want to. But I didn't forget the kindness of this individual and how her blessing personally affected me. Later in early adult life, and dealing with the normal frustrations that hit us in our 30s, I decided to place the jar of white beans on my kitchen counter, the same amount my mother served that evening. To remember each day that no matter how hard or frustrating life may be, or if life's dreams not coming to realization, still how truly blessed I was. Some blessings will arrive right away, others will not. My family was very fortunate. Our blessing did arrive just in time back in 1975. But today, there are still many in our community who are waiting for a knock at their door. And many in our community who need your help in their struggle not only against hunger, but poverty. And to think, if we try, we can change our community and our world. I encourage you to place a jar of white beans where it inspires you most. To remember to be grateful for how truly blessed you are, for what you do have and what could be. And to not forget, there is someone right here in Central Oregon that would be grateful to have white beans for dinner. Thank you.